My question is for Kristen. I was just wondering, I know the role of the public information officer is fairly new, and the lack of one in 1989, do you think that influenced the public's opinion, and what do you think could have been handled differently by the police department?
Good question. I do, again, going back to transparency, I'm not sure that they were as transparent as they could be, and especially after the case was over, they didn't announce their mistakes, and that just was, I don't know, I know that you said maybe 6 years on, and it really did to me to see that. Yeah, it is unethical, and I mean, the thing is, you're right, the public information officer, that role of a public information person is relatively new. I think it helps, though, because all of your information is being channeled through one source. The media knows who they have to go to, the public has a place that they can go to, and it's not that, you know, they're trying to hide anything from you, but understandably, law enforcement is going to have to keep certain details because of the sensitivity of the case. But in a lot of ways, it helps, and I know that that was one of the reasons our police department went towards having a civilian PIO, or public information officer, and you're seeing more of a trend in that direction, whereas a lot of police departments had actually sworn personnel. Now more and more police departments are actually hiring former media personnel, former reporters who know what it takes to be a reporter, know what they're interested in, and can have a pretty good working relationship and get that sort of information out. And a large part of my job now, too, is social media. As I mentioned, not just the news media, but creating our own news stories and getting the information that we want out there without having anybody else's opinions or slant to it. And people can go directly to our Twitter pages, our Facebook page, and get the information straight from the source when we're ready to release it. So it's definitely a profession that is growing, and I'm seeing more and more civilians going into that role. And part of it may just be, too, because people can relate to it. I'm a civilian, I'm not a police officer, I'm not somebody that goes out and arrests everybody, so you and I have a connection there.
I have two questions. I have one from Ms. Galvin and Professor White. The first one goes to you. How do you believe like waves of public prejudice and public opinion could have swayed the opinions of law enforcement or certain officials during this case?
Oh, I think that was pretty obvious what happened here, and particularly the setting in New York City at the time in 1989. I mean, I wasn't living there, but I was alive during that time, and I knew it was a very charged setting, and it, you know, unfortunately, race was at the center of it. And that's another thing I think the news media needs to be very careful about, not to inflame those kind of situations. And, you know, often what we're doing is just reacting to what we think the public wants or believes or sees. And I think often we're making a mistake doing that. And we should be more in a position of not leading public opinion, but at least correcting errors where we see them and making sure the public knows that those errors are being made.
Well, how do you, and just quiet with my film features, how do you believe a filmmaker should go about making sure that they highlight the right aspects of these stories that they want to portray? Because everything has, even like I understand, like media has a plan, like anything has a plan. Like anybody who creates anything wants you to believe something from it. But how do you believe that a filmmaker should go about maintaining their integrity, but also revealing the facts in a way that it creates the appropriate message that they're looking for?
Well, the short answer would be check the motives, really. I mean, you know, why are you doing this? What are you trying to add to the student life? That's what I do with my films. And by the way, you to learn how to make films in the Cinematic Arts and Media Production Program over in the Art Building. Same plug. Okay. Now, yeah, and as well, I think, well, okay, I worked in journalism. We interviewed this lady whose house burned down, right? And she lost her son. And the reporter I was with, I was the camera person, the interview was kind of dry. So he winks at me and goes, okay, well, how do you feel about losing your son in the fire?
Oh.
Yeah. And I could barely pull onto the camera. I got in the car, I wanted to beat the guy down, okay? But I didn't do that. But I'm just saying, it's about emotional reaction. A lot of times, to answer the other question, it was about fear, okay? It's called propagating a lot of fear cells, sex cells, everything else, okay? So, it's about, but still, if you check the motive, you can still get a good story, you know? There's a lot of good stories out there. It doesn't have to be dry. If you check your motives, like this movie, trying to make the system better, that's what I got away from it, right? That's a good story, you know, versus, you know, they could have played on all the wrongs that were done and perpetuating fear and all that. But I think checking your purpose and your motive, I think we all have something positive to contribute. And again, I'm not saying everybody has to go out and make a positive film, you know, but I mean, we have enough fear movies, it's already been done, you know, and a lot of things like that.
Hi, I did live in New York at the time this was happening. I was an undergrad, and I remember all the sensational newspaper stories going on, but I know that most of the papers were like the mainstream papers, but there were some smaller papers that were from different parts of town. There was the Amsterdam News, and they kind of talked about different things, the different aspects. And so I'm wondering how driven are newspaper and news agencies into having more diversity in the reporters, and do you think that would have made a difference in how this was reported?
Well, I'm just going to be real brief. If you notice, in a lot of the reporting, it was like the lady was jogging, and then they report the other, the black men. If you notice that, and it's always the humans and the other guys, you know. So I think that's there. That still happens if you watch TV. So I think that could be helpful, you know. You got any suggestions or you think anybody else?
Well, I think, diversity plays a huge role in this and should, not just in trying to get a more diverse profession in terms of people practicing it, but in terms of being aware of things like what Ms. Wright was just talking about, that, you know, the words that you use, the way that you describe people, the fact that you set apart people of one ethnicity but not those of another, and the more, you know, you check your own motives, and we should say, and try to be alive and responsive to those needs, I think the better. I don't know that the profession does the best job at it that we could, but, you know, I think most of us at least are trying.
It just doesn't really show up, and I'm not attacking journalists or the media. However, when they wrote about my son's murder, they didn't put in that it was a white male. They just said a male, which kind of provoked people to ask me, well, was he white or black? And I don't know, that just didn't set well with me.
Recently, this Trayvon Martin case, I kind of feel like that whole thing just turned into a race issue. I mean, that's all you saw on the news was this issue of race, and it really, it turned less and less into the fact that somebody had been murdered, and that there was a murder trial going on, and more about race. So I just think it's important no matter who you are to take a step back, view everybody equally, and not kind of fall into that trap of either stereotyping or labeling people in a certain way, even if it's unintentional, because it can be easy to do. That's really important.
So I apologize, I'm going to put you on the spot. But, leave it to me, right? I'm aware, and I think we might all here now be aware that you've met the victim in this crime. Is that correct?
Yeah. I actually attended the conference where she spoke. It was in Tampa, Florida, and she was a remarkable speaker, and it was nice to see that she was doing so much better. But she was very empowering. She really was.
And this is the part where I put you on the spot because you and I discussed this prior to the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
How does this change your view of the whole picture?
Well, let's face it, I felt that I was a survivor, okay, and I was a victim, and I never really gave a whole lot of thought, I guess, to the other side. And after watching this, it literally made me sick to my stomach because everybody failed these young men. I mean, everybody, the police, the media, the prosecutors, even their own attorneys failed them. I think I probably look at my position a little bit differently now that I've seen this documentary. So thank you for asking that.
I think, as a filmmaker, that's what you want, to make a change in the viewer, and that it can hurt that we have a compliment.
I think it's important to understand, too, that it serves no victim well to convict the wrong person of the crime. I mean, that doesn't help at all. And I think we naturally have a sense of sympathizing with victims of crime, and that sometimes may lead us, or, you know, in the media and in the public in general, to assume people are guilty and to think that you're doing the right thing by insisting that they're guilty and they should be brought to justice. When, you know, really, in this case, as it was pointed out, there were more victims because the right person wasn't arrested. And I think, you know, we just have to keep that in mind. It doesn't serve the victim at all for the wrong person to be arrested for a crime.
This question is for you, Steve. Do you see a lot of students coming wanting to be crime informed?
Actually, that's one of the positions that we usually would hold for someone that we trust, that we know is going to do a good job. That's usually a position that we tend to hold back on because we want the right person covering crime beats. Because there are so many instances where things like this can happen. The difference in word choice is astounding between just by saying someone's accused of something or someone actually did something. There's little things like that, and it's in every aspect of being a crime reporter. Because you're writing, and you know that what you're writing is going to affect someone. You don't really know who it is yet. You don't know the backlash of what's going to happen. So I would say, yeah, we get great there in finding the right person for that job. You'll find that whoever fills that role often goes on to jump up into more of a prime time position. It's been kind of a place where people have proved themselves as being smart, doing the right thing, and being a true public journalist.
Can I just say one thing real quick? Sorry. Yeah,
I really think Ken Burns should be applauded for making this film because one is spirit, okay? And it takes a lot to be the person that says, oh, the emperor's not wearing any clothes. Wait a minute, you know? To go do that, I mean, as a filmmaker,
And, I just wanted to know, how do you go about getting the truth and, I guess, portraying the truth, no matter how ugly it is, without it being seen as libel or, something like that, or slanderous or something like that?
I'll say something real quick. What it is, whenever you take out a camera and shoot somebody, you've already distorted the truth right there, okay? How you frame it, where you put the light, how much light you put on it, what color, shade, and all that. So you really can't worry about that. You just have to, go with your gut and, again, check your motives and let it fly.
Another big thing is attribution too, which you had kind of alluded to that. You need to be really careful with your wording, and right now when I was a reporter, you don't want to say yourself that somebody is a flying ball. Yeah, you need to attribute who told you that, you need to quote somebody as saying that. Even with crime stories, I get out this information on a daily basis about different crimes that happen in Greenville, and I still sometimes see reporters, it could be something as simple as the man stole $4 in cash. Well, how do you really know that? So really you need to say, police tell us, or the GPE spokesperson tells us the man stole $4 in cash. So that's really important because that can change your story in a very big way.
Okay. My name is Daniel Billington. I have a couple of questions. In regards to what you were saying earlier, as far as different reporters or journalists digging, if they feel like something isn't true, digging, find out what the answer is. I feel like in reality, not a lot of people are going to do the digging, especially when the majority are saying, especially in this film, each young man did it, and this is how. So I feel like after that, each person that was reporting the story is going to be added to that. So my first question is, what kind of advice would you give maybe a new reporter who's first off trying to get a name for themselves or trying to get a career in this? And well, go ahead with that.
Well, don't follow the pack, right? Be the reporter who breaks the story that tells the whole story or tells the truth, and be aware that there is such a thing as fact journalism, right? That we tend to keep, a story breaks, and all the journalists want to be on top of it, and they want to be seen as having the latest development in it. And to be a good reporter, you need to step back every now and then and ask yourself, wait, is this the real story? Is this really what's going on here? And if you're looking to be a journalist who wants to make a name for herself, well, maybe that's one way to do it, is to be the one who fights the pack mentality and asks the questions that other people aren't asking.
That, and I would really encourage you to fact check as well. I see so many times I release press releases that comes out to the media, and that would be their entire story basically, word for word is what I sent out. They don't go that extra mile to dig and find more. And just something as simple as, like, I know our police department, we post actually all of our reports online, so anything is accessible right through your computer. You can go to the courthouse and get warrants, and usually there's a little bit more information I found in a time as a reporter than you're getting from a public information officer. And it's not that they're trying to hide anything. You have a good public information officer. Usually they're giving you factual information, but you can get that extra tidbit that maybe the other reporters don't by just going that extra mile and just making sure that what is in that release is in fact true.
My final question is, so kind of piggybacking off of this, there are people who don't do the right thing and only report what the truth is and what the honesty is. So how do we, as viewers, kind of know what to believe? An example from the film, I remember one of the gentlemen were talking, and he stated that
within the African American community, even the African Americans are kind of like, oh man, like another group of black kids did this, you know what I mean? That's because of what we were fed in the media. So I was like, you know, kind of, if the people who are giving this information out are just human and making their own bias and how do we know what to believe and, you know, what's true?
Well, okay. Well, as a black male, I can say, you know, it still can be tough to catch a cab in New York. At the same time, when that black cabbie passes me, it really is a double whammy, right? How can you do that? So now, when I go to like the black dentist or the black lawyer, I don't say well, oh yeah, you don't need a white dentist. You don't need a white. Give this guy a shot, yeah. So, because I've done it myself, I gotta admit, you know. And it's because of stereotypes out there. And really, what it comes down to for me is getting to know people. People don't want to take the time to know anybody, or let's say a campaigner or something. Nobody wants to read all the facts and data. They want quick, short sound bites and move on to the next thing. So with people, it's the same way. You know, get to know people. You know, speak to people, talk to people, know about people versus run with stereotypes. Yeah. So, and actually, people are pretty good.
Well, I think the ideal thing would be an audience that is willing to ask questions also, and to hold the journalist's feet to the fire and expect more of us. You know, unfortunately, we're living in a time now where the audiences are so fractured, and not just along racial lines, but along all kinds of different orientations, and we believe what we want to believe. We read only what we want to read. We watch only the channels we want to watch, and we are closing our minds to hearing from other perspectives more and more. And I think that's a sad thing to see, because, you know, I think an educated public is the best thing we can have, and a public that wants to be educated beyond its own assumptions and biases is the best for all of us, I think.
I think, too, you can tell a lot by somebody's body language. Say you are interviewing somebody, or just the simple fact of getting to know somebody, like Ken suggested, getting to know people, eventually building sources, so you kind of know whether the information you're getting is reliable or not. But you can also tell, like I said, a lot from body language, how people are responding to questions. Sometimes in law enforcement, we simply can't give answers because of ongoing investigation, but we'll explain that. But if for some reason somebody's getting defensive, or they don't really have a reason for something, or they're shutting you out, then trust your gut and think there's probably a good reason for that, and maybe I should look into that.
In terms of being a viewer and watching the news and trying to figure out who to trust and who not to trust, I think today more than ever it's very easy to tell a reporter's intentions. If somebody, I would look at more the reporter who's reporting. Is it someone who is trying to make a name for himself? Is it someone who is trying to gather as many stories as possible? Or is it someone who's really intent on providing the good news, intent on making sure that his or her is saying the way? I think now with Twitter, with all sorts of avenues for providing news, I think that's one way where, as a viewer, we have an advantage of saying, that guy, he's just trying to, you know, make a splash, as opposed to that person actually. I've seen what they've done over the years. I trust what they're saying.
Can I just one more thing real quickly? I know somebody who works at a major network, right? And they told me, well, you know how Fox is geared towards the right, and like MSNBC is kind of towards the left. And they said that the executive said it's really not about the information
have a certain, niche, and then people want that, you know what I mean? Like, we want a Pirates, guy who calls a Pirates football game to have our slant, right? So we want to listen to that guy, you know? But how many people watch McNeil Ware? Not too many, right? Because it doesn't have a slant, so.
Ken, I was just wondering, your perspective towards the end there, the quote from the historian when he was speaking, he said that people can be, something along the lines of really bad. And it was sort of a negative sort of way, you might not expect to see coming into the end of the film, which was kind of more ending with hope. And I was just wondering what you thought of that quote in that context, and, would you use it, or?
Well, personally, I like that they said that, but at the same time, the overall theme said to me is that we're good, that we are putting this on glass, and that we want to see it, that we want to expose it so we can change it. So we are a good society. That's kind of what I got from it. Yeah, it was ugly, but at the same time, it's good that we're all here assembled because we want to talk about something, a positive future, a positive, doing something about it, and as opposed to hiding at the table and not even acting like it happened.